So, hi guys, welcome to another community interview with I'm your host, Lionel McGrainer, the king of YYC, the king of the Calgary Stampede. Every princess and stampede queens in the past will agree to that. And I'm Superman. But yeah, it has been a long minute, but I'm back and I'm here with Lourdes Juan, but I like to call her Auntie Boo Boo.
That's me.
Yeah.
Hi,
So,
Lionel. Thanks for having me.
so tell me, like, what have you been up to? Like, what Netflix shows have you been watching?
I've been watching too many. I've blown through Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the new season. Kelsey, my fiance, and I, who you know and have interviewed,
Oh, yeah.
we got through The Office.
Oh, yeah.
The American Office. I started watching Dead to Me. I started rewatching Modern Family. I mean, I like to binge watch TV a lot.
I think we all do. And like recently, I've been watching the Michael Jordan That Dance
Oh, don't tell me though.
documentary.
We're
Uh,
not allowed to watch it. Kelsey was saying that he wants to watch it, like binge watch it, and he never wants to binge watch anything. And so he said we have to wait till it's done. So it finished on Sunday, and then I
yeah.
said, okay, can we watch it? Because I think we're the last people on the planet that haven't seen it yet. And he said, no, I have to finish a book first about it. So I'll never watch this.
What? Tell me to tell me to hurry up because I cannot talk about it in the group chat.
You can't joke about it in his group chat. No, don't do
Yeah.
it because we haven't seen it. And it's driving me crazy. And everyone, even non-basketball fans, are telling me about it. I cannot partake. So I have to wait. So you're not allowed to say anything about it. I heard it's amazing though.
Yeah, it's like I will just tell you this. It's so good that I had to buy 2 pair of that I had to buy like 2 pair of Jordan shoes.
You had to. You were forced to.
I was inspired and that we dominate we dominate my love of sneakers.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't hard for you to get back into loving sneakers, but
No, but I must say like that with the old sneaker culture is just really fun. It's really interesting. Like the history and like how they're produced and like you sent me a link a year ago with the person with cerebral palsy and
Mhm.
Nike created a shoe for that athlete and the free and the sneaker is adaptable for it to
Oh,
running
cool.
with it. So cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
live with a sneakerhead, so I know it's gonna take over your life and your closet now, Lionel.
Oh man, you can say that again. Yeah, I need to buy another. I'm gonna buy another unit for my
Oh my gosh. I will never understand it. Kelsey cleans his shoes a lot, and
Oh, I did too. I did it yesterday. I had nothing to do, so I was cleaning my shoes.
Hey,
I don't.
hey, listen.
Goodness.
Is this an interview about me or about you? All I hear is my name coming up.
We're making fun of your sneakers.
Well, okay, listen. Talk about yourself. I know I'm interested.
Can you leave my interview alone? Lionel and I are just catching up. We're talking here.
Kill
This
the everyone.
thing is challenging.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, let's talk more about you. And I wanna ask, like, what first got you into the path of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think my dad planted the seed a long time ago. With entrepreneurship, he graduated from the University of Calgary in mechanical engineering, and then he worked for a bit in the corporate world, and then he decided to open up his own company. So from a very young age, I could see my dad working in the basement. He had a basement office and he would work long hours, and he had a lot of flexibility to hang out with us during the day. And so I guess I was, exposed to entrepreneurship when I was really young. And then, I worked corporate from when I was 14 until when I was 26. Which sounds crazy, but my high school gave me the opportunity to be part of a co-op program. And so I was able to get a job at an architecture firm, downtown while I was doing high school. And so, for that 12 years, I had a really, good string of mentors that really, helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my career. And I think, a lot of people say, I just stumbled into entrepreneurship or it just happened. But, actually for me, it was really calculated. I knew that I wanted to work for myself. But I also knew that it was important for me to have mentors and have the experience with working with other people and collaborating and understanding different personalities. And so I really wanted to get that experience, before I started being an entrepreneur. And I guess it's been 10 years of building, both for-profit and not-for-profit companies and organizations. And my goal with every organization was to advocate and to do projects that, really got us toward a better future. And so my diverse interests and, seeing things through multiple lenses because of my professional background as an urban planner, but also because I'm a small business owner and an executive director of a couple of nonprofits. Every venture helps sort of inform each other every day. And so my entrepreneurship journey, I wear 5 hats, as I think sort of many entrepreneurs do. But my day looks different every single day. And now I think I'm really sort of fascinated with social entrepreneurship and how we can, do good, but still follow business principles so that, these organizations are sustainable throughout time.
And I totally agree with you. And by the way, I wanna do a shout out to your dad. Happy birthday.
Yes, my dad's birthday.
Happy birthday, Teacher Lisa.
Best. He's 61 today. We're gonna we're gonna see him later tonight. We've been helping my mom and dad because my dad's high risk, and so we've been able to quarantine and see them, which has been really nice.
Perfect. And for an entrepreneur, how do you know that you got the right idea?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And my short answer is that you don't. I don't think people know when they have the right idea. I think with entrepreneurship, you try, you test, you win, you lose, you win again, you lose again. And so, I think in my experience, I've tweaked not only my business models a lot, in terms of, my development company or the spa that I own. But really, I think it's about, working with a team, working collaboratively, being well researched in what you do. I'll tell you a story about the Leftovers Foundation, which is a charity that helps, recover excess food. And, I had no idea that I was going to go into the not-for-profit sector or that I was going to have a food rescue charity. And so, as I started as an entrepreneur, I had no idea that this was going to be a thing. And 8 years ago, I went to a Cobb's Bakery with my cousin Nathan, who and we went to go pick up some bread, and he wanted, stuff for his organization, and there was so much of it. There was like 200 pounds of it. And that would have gone to waste if Nate and I weren't there to pick it up. And, Nathan took some of it to his church, and I took the rest to the drop-in center. And, when you have 200 pounds of bread kind of like laid out in front of you, that takes up, an entire storefront, and it squished into Nathan's car and my car that I had at the time. And we brought it to the drop-in center, and they said, that was really memorable for me, because they said, we're going to use this up in a day, because we serve 3,000 meals a day. And there was, for me, like real shock value in that. Canada doesn't have a food shortage problem, but we have a food redistribution problem. And I think, part of my entrepreneurial lens looking into this was, this is a global problem. This is complex, and we need to figure out how to fix this, because while we're wasting almost $50 billion of food in Canada each year, there are households that can't get access to good food. And that was sort of, how the Leftovers Foundation started. So, I never really thought about being an entrepreneur in the nonprofit sector, but this experience, really made me want to show everyone how much we waste, how many people could use it. And so, I remember like sitting at coffee shops, because I didn't have an office at the time, because I was a new entrepreneur, and all entrepreneurs, their offices are Phil and Sebastian and Rosso and Bino. So I was sitting at, I think, Sidewalk Citizen and in Calgary, and I thought, well, I'm going to be here probably till closing, and if they let me take the goods at the end of the day, I can bring it back to that same shelter. And so I replicated that. And so I, as an entrepreneur, you find your early adopters and people that are really gonna band around you, and then you try to scale that, and that really worked, because it had this sort of social purpose. But I think to sort of answer your question in a roundabout way, I don't think people know when they have the right idea. I think they have a hunch, or they want to help, and we just have to try and tweak and let ourselves fail and let ourselves come back. And that's really what entrepreneurship has looked like to me in both the nonprofit and not-for-profit sector.
Oh yeah, I definitely, and I love how you like feel a problem, because there's a lot of wasted food happening. Even with the organization that I was a part of, we have a monthly meeting every month, and there's all that food being wasted at the buffet with, they could give it away to people, right?
Yeah, and I think, it's a huge logistical piece. Like, we waste food at every single level, from farmers to processing to grocery stores to on our plates. I mean, it's just something that's, avoidable in some respects, and unavoidable in other respects. But that piece that we can avoid, it will take every single person to do something about it. And, all we've done as a foundation is try to, create sort of models that help people, advocate for not wasting any food, but also programs that do something about it. And I think that's been, looking at the charitable sector through an entrepreneurial lens has been really important in my work.
And speaking of entrepreneur, you just a lot about you need to learn, you need to fail a lot of times to find the right idea, the right concept, and build on it. So, what kind of obstacles do you have to face in your career?
Yeah, I think, for me, sort of three things pop up. One, I am a relatively young woman and a person of color. And so I think when we talk about obstacles, who's funded, who's not funded in terms of being an entrepreneur, it's me. And it's people that look like me. And so, I think a lot of the obstacles that female entrepreneurs have, that women entrepreneurs have, society has sort of set those barriers. But, I think for me, obstacles are opportunities. And so I think it's important to face challenges, really head on. And so I think that, when you say the word obstacle in entrepreneurship, it's just sort of like, there were so many things at the very beginning where people just don't take people like me seriously. So, and I think in some respects that's a good thing, because, when I first started, let's say in the architecture world, I was 14. And so I had, literally everything against me. I was a kid, and I had to work extra hard and put in the long hours and do the work and do the research. But I think what that's done is it's really, set the stage for my work ethic. I'm never afraid to work. If someone said that I had to work a 20-hour day, I think I would be more excited about it than upset. So I think, these sort of experiences in my life have set up the stage for that. In terms of when I first started out on my own, I don't think there was kind of anything out of the ordinary. I mean, I think all entrepreneurs go through staffing challenges and challenges. And, I had a tough time hiring, the team. And when I first started, I didn't know how to do that. The team was not as polished as it is today. And I remember, as I look back, I hired for myself and not for my team, which has changed. And I think if entrepreneurs really look at, who they hire and why they hire that person, it can't be for themselves or the CEO or the founder. It has to be for everyone else that you have brought on that team. And, one of the most important things I'll say about building a team is that, you have to create a culture of serving. And so whether that's serving each other on the team, or let's say serving your community in the nonprofit sector, that's the best way to get longevity out of your team. And, build teams that are smarter than you. Every single person on my team is way smarter than me. And I think leadership means, not being intimidated by smarter people, but just welcoming those people onto your team, because they will fill blind spots that you would never be able to fill on your own. So I think that's sort of an important thing, and something that I overcame. I think, entrepreneurship and building a team, and, if you want to sort of scale your organization quickly, that means you really understanding diversity. it was one of the Obamas that said, your organization will underperform if you don't have a diversity of people in decision making. And that's true for for-profit and not-for-profit. But I also think, diversity doesn't only mean, gender, ability, sexual orientation, if you're a person of color. It also means diversity of thought. And typically, the diversity of thought comes from bringing on people that have had different life experiences. So that sort of helped. And that's sort of if I were to look back and tell myself something, it would be something along those lines. But if we're talking about obstacles, this pandemic is the biggest obstacle for, I think, most people in the world. We are all going through this in some way. And 8 to 10 years into my businesses and organizations pre-COVID, I was feeling super good. Fresh Roots was so busy. Leftovers was making new partnerships. The spa was like, it was so good. And then the global pandemic hit. And, I remember sitting with my team on March 12th, and Friday the 13th was the most normal day we've had since then. But I remember sitting with my team and thinking, what do we do now? And what's the decision? And how do we get through this? And, as a team, we were divided. And, I think some of us were on the fence about continuing to do the operation. Some of us wanted to shut down, and some of us, me included, wanted to really charge forward and look the pandemic right in the eyes. And that's what we did. We pivoted, we united, and we anteed up because Calgarians needed us. And so whether you're a service-based industry or you're a not-for-profit, for me, our job was to get food to people in need. And, there was really no way we were going to back down. So, all of that, after all of that, we still had the biggest obstacle, which was, okay, great that we've decided that we're going to charge forward, but how do we do this? And I think, for the first 4 weeks, for sure, we were building the plane while we were flying it. So we had no idea what we were doing. We had little resources, but we got through because, we're a team that had each other. And so kind of getting over those obstacles together, years into entrepreneurship, I think we did the same thing that we were practicing for years. And that's, listening, collaborating, and thinking about, purpose-driven innovation, and how to provide that leadership for Calgary.
Wow. And funny that you say like about diversity, because I'm taking a class right now about diversity and employment, and they're like talking about like like for business people to be successful, you need people around them to challenge their ideas and to challenge their thoughts, because that's how you grow and develop a business into achieving your goals, right?
Oh, for sure. Like your life experience, Lionel, is much different from mine, and it's much different from Kelsey's or your sister's. And to have all those interests at the table, I think is a really important part of entrepreneurship. And I think entrepreneurs need to start bringing more people to the table that aren't like them. And I think more work would get done in a more, thoughtful and meaningful way.
Definitely. And you talk about a lot about community, and I'm really passionate about the community. And recently, you've been in local news media about the Leftover Foundation. And can you tell me more about like the that the organization and how is it especially important during this COVID-19 situation?
Absolutely. I think community is important all the time. So I think that, I'm a true believer that community can create change. Um, I'll tell you a story only because it's a stampede story, and I know you love the stampede.
I am the king of I am the king of Stampede. I'm
Sorry, king of
looking for my
stampede.
Stampede queen right now.
Right, sorry. He's the king of stampede. Okay, the king of stampede. I'll tell you a story about community building at the stampede. So years ago, I snuck onto the Stampede grounds to ask their vendors if they wanted to donate food from the last day of Stampede. And, I had friends that handled the waste management and composting at the Stampede. So I was able to get onto the grounds at 11 p.m. with one tiny cart. And we actually picked up, me and 2 or 3 other volunteers picked up 1.2 tons of food and distributed that to service agencies that night. So to paint a picture, of course, mini donuts and big turkey legs, but, also dry goods and fresh produce that would last a long time for agencies. And I think, as a small volunteer group, we totally broke the rules, and I'm not an advocate for breaking rules, but what we saw was, an opportunity to make a statement as, community activists. And, vendors didn't want to see their food go to waste, and Calgarians wanted to do something about it. And so this sort of sense of community and collaboration, rescued all of that food. And that got national attention when the Huffington Post saw that we were posting on our social media, sneaking around the stampede late at night. And the fact that we rescued all that food, it made sort of national headlines. And that was community building. I mean, that was just a conversation from one person to the next. And, we cared about the same thing. We cared that the food, didn't want to go to waste. And so while that's such a small example of what we can do when there's 2 or 3 of us that have the same idea, I believe that we can convene as a community to solve these problems, really globally. And it can take one small act and one small thing that people do every single day to take care of each other. And this is how we're going to, in my opinion, like really constantly evolve as a society, is when we come together and get on the same page. COVID-19, has really, shown us that there are cracks and gaps and holes in our current food system. And it's really, brought that to the forefront in really vivid ways. I think in the last 8 weeks, the Leftovers Foundation has picked up 150,000 pounds of food. To give you some context, we usually pick up about, in that same time period, about 60,000 pounds of food. So, we were almost double, and it was sort of an all hands on deck type of approach to everything. And so, that wouldn't have happened. You ask, why is it important, during the pandemic for, the community to really come together? But that would not have happened without the support from all different sectors and leadership from all different sectors coming together. And that's, your favorite restaurant, their distributor, your post-secondary institutions, the zoo donated food, Telespark, airlines started donating food like Air Canada. I mean, that's what community means to me. It's such a small act to just say, make the decision. You're not going to, throw away food. You want it to get to those in need. And so, that really received local, national, and international attention through Al Jazeera, which we were just super excited for, because that's generosity from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Like, we're such a small, little piece of the world, and the world wanted to know what we were doing. And so, I think that we've really positioned ourselves as a city and as an organization to really make sure that we get through this crisis together.
And I totally agree. And don't you worry about the Calgary some breaking the rules because I did that too last year. I did it too last year, but I did it actually with me and a group of me and my team did it for a good cause. So it was for community.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
exactly.
also you talk a lot about local businesses and about how they go the community and local businesses are connect should be connected as one. So
For sure.
how important is it to support local businesses?
Well, I think you hit it like you hit the nail on the head. The community, activism and working with community is so connected to supporting local business and local business in general. Our local economy is so important. Small business owners have super tight margins. If we take the pandemic, for example, people are starting to understand how tight small business margins are. And without that consistent cash flow, it's really hard for them to survive. And I think the stat is, as an employer, I think that it's employer businesses. Out of all of the employer businesses in Canada, small businesses are 97% of that. So that's businesses that have, I think 1 to 99 employees. So out of, 1.2 million employer businesses, 1.18 were small businesses. That's a significant part of the economy, and that's a significant part of people that we employ. That means that everyone and their dog knows a person that works for a small business. And it's important to me that we support local, and when and if we can, and I totally understand that it's not feasible for everyone all the time to support local in terms of spending money, but people can always, through social media and through different types of ways, there are inexpensive or $0 effort ways where we can support small business, and that's an advocacy piece, and I know you do a lot of that on
Oh
your
yeah.
social channels.
And I'm supporting local
Oh,
too.
there you go. That's local laundry. And I think that's what it's about. When COVID hit, the mayor's office put me on a small business task force, and because our local government really realize that small business needs to have a voice. And, when we look at who we put as who we vote in as decision makers, our politicians and our administration, they don't come from a small business background. And yet their decisions affect us every single day. They affect small business owners in
Yeah.
so many different ways, but they have never experienced, for the most part, owning a small business. So how can we expect them, to make informed decisions if we're not speaking up? So I was really, pleased that Mayor Nenshi put me on this task force. I'm there with, a few other small business owners. And really, it's to tell our story. It's to say, this is what I'm facing today. This is what this, provincial regulation does to my business. This is what my relaunch open looks like. And I think we have to take advantage of opportunities like that when they're presented to us, because while I can be a voice for my small business, I can also advocate for other businesses like mine, or I can just know about, what my neighborhood restaurant is going through. And I think that's super important, that we're all on the same page with these challenges, and that sort of collective global action, that looking out for your neighbor and your partner and supporting as local as much as you can, and if you have the means, is just so important.
And I totally agree with you. And I like for me as a photographer, working with a lot, working and collaborating with a lot of local businesses businesses. I like the idea of we're not competing with one another, we're helping each other, we're treating each other as family, and we're helping each other build our businesses, which I love, like, which I love Calgary for, even though everyone complains about, like, the leadership and all, and, like, people not understanding like, Calgary got the most tight-knit community business groups around North America, which I'm lucky to see it for my eyes.
Yeah, we're an extremely entrepreneurial city, and if you're not an entrepreneur, you're willing to try new stuff, and I think that's really important for a city to support each other in that way, for sure.
And I got one more question
Sure.
for you, which I asked, all my guests. So like COVID-19, life took a 180 turn for everyone. So, what is the message you wanna give others that is dealing with a rough time? What is your message for hope for them?
Yeah, I love this question, and I think it would be a double tragedy if we came away from this learning absolutely nothing. And so I'm hoping that for us and for me and my household, but also my team, I have to constantly tell my team to take breaks and have balance and check in with yourself. And if this pandemic is teaching us anything, it's teaching us that the best thing we can do for ourselves is to stay well and stay healthy. And so whatever that looks like to you, if it's Kelsey and I take nightly walks now. We never did that before. I've been doing yoga every single morning. Never did that before. And it's not like we have, more hours in a day. It's just that, this pandemic is making us prioritize things a bit differently. No one wants to get sick. Everyone wants to stay or get anyone else sick. Everyone wants to stay as healthy as possible. So now we're starting to think about, what do we need to do in our life so that we can stay as healthy as possible. So I'm hoping that people are learning something from this and not only taking care of themselves better, but taking care of their neighbors and doing those small acts of kindness that can really have a ripple effect and make a big change for everybody.
Yeah, definitely, and I totally agree that it that during it that make us like count our blessing and how lucky we are to be having those connections. Why not? Because there's others around the world that is less fortunate than
Mm-hmm.
ours. Even when I see it, even now there's people like struggling right now with, I think, the pandemic that exposed the gap of disparity within our society with um with trying to think of ways like to come together and how we should closing the gap, right?
Absolutely. And this is a good way to do that, Lionel. Like, get your word out there and, interview people from the community and, yeah, keep spreading messages of hope and love.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanna say thank you so much for taking the time to
Of
talk
course.
to me, even though I'm a little bit crazy at times.
It's all good. It's all good. I'll always make time. Sorry I messed up last week. But I'm glad
No,
we got to chat today.
no worries. It's actually good thing that we be scheduled because I had another meeting before my seminar. So I was like, oh, it's a good view, it's a good thing
Okay, good.
I'm interviewing you today.
Good, good. Well, thanks for having me, Lionel.
Yeah, no problem. And one question, where can people find you?
Oh, sure. So the foundation, the charitable work is at rescuefood.ca or fresh roots, like a bus route, .ca. My development company is Hive Developments, .ca, and then it's somacalgary.com for my spa. And I'm on social media at Lourdes M. Juan.
Oh, nice. And I also wanna say this to the people that that if you wanna support local businesses and the Leftover Foundation, they did the Leftover Foundation did a collaboration with our friends YYC Cycles and
Yeah,
Local Laundry. Really dope search and
yeah, they're
every
awesome.
sale go 25% of the profit go to leftover Canada, leftover foundation
Same
service.
thing.
So I will recommend you guys to check it out. Really
Thank
do
you.
search. I'm gonna get mine soon.
Yeah, pre-sale ends on
So
Friday.
oh yeah. Yeah, so thanks again and bye everyone and I will see you with a new guest.
Bye. Thanks, Lionel.